Chapter 20. Brian POV. I felt no pride in my actions after leaving the hotel and my mate. Alice's incessant crying and demands to know who Jane was to me grated on my nerves. But divulging the truth now would only unleash a storm of media frenzy upon Jane, something I couldn't bear. So, I remained silent throughout the entire drive until I pulled up in front of her house. Alice reached for me, but I recoiled. Her touch repulsed me, pulling me back towards my mate. I needed to think fast. It had barely been 5 minutes since I left her. How did my father endure my mother's death? This agony was unbearable, and time seemed to stretch on endlessly. Get out. My voice escaped as a low growl, startling Alice, who looked at me nervously. Get out, I repeated, watching her frozen in her seat, before she hastily reached for the door handle and exited the car. And Alice, I called out as she stepped out onto the pavement. She paused, hand still on the open door, and turned to look back at me. Don't come looking for me. Stay the hell away from me, or you'll end up like the rest of the Forsaken, I warned her sternly. She gasped, clearly taken aback. I had never banished anyone from the city before. We usually tried to avoid forsaking wolves, but she had made finding my mate an entirely new struggle by failing to remain in the damn car as I had asked. Her puffy red eyes blinked at me in shock at my words before she nodded and slammed my door shut. Starting the drive home with a heavy sigh, I couldn't shake the desire to return to the Cagayan Parkview Hotel and retrieve my mate. I couldn't comprehend why she didn't want me. Wasn't mating with an alpha all she-wolves desired? Yet, she had tossed me aside as if she felt nothing for me. And she was a rogue. She should have been ecstatic. The likelihood of an alpha bonding with a rogue was rare. While not unheard of, it was a rarity. Most alphas were bonded to other alphas. I only knew of 2 other alphas in the country mated to individuals of lower rank. Yet, Jane was the first rogue I had heard of being bonded to an alpha. Despite the unconventional nature of our bond, I didn't care. I simply wanted her. She could have been as rare as a unicorn for all I cared. I had always longed for my mate. I trusted the moon goddess to make the right choice for me, and upon seeing her, I couldn't envision being with anyone else. My thoughts were consumed with her, her scent, the tingles that raced over me whenever she touched me. Yet, something felt off, lingering on the edge of my consciousness. I experienced a strange sense of déjà vu, which I knew was irrational. I would have surely recognized my mate if I had encountered her before. Yet, even her name. I swore I had heard it before. Why couldn't I place it? Had it been a dream? One certainty I hold is the necessity of winning her over. Technically, I could assert my claim forcefully. Our laws permit such actions, as alphas can be subdued in the absence of their mates. It's deemed unacceptable for an alpha to be incapacitated due to longing for their Luna. Should the alpha be constrained by their mate, the entire pack is jeopardized, a risk I cannot allow. I require her, and she requires me. The inevitable pull will ensnare her. She excels at feigning indifference, yet her accelerated heart rate and heightened breath betray her true feelings in my presence. No one can endure the absence of their mate, or so I hope, for she shall be mine. As I pull back into the hotel parking lot, a groan escapes me upon spotting my father's car still in place. I had hoped Martin would have managed to deal with him in my absence. Yet, what truly captures my attention is the sight of Alpha D's car parked beside it. A snarl involuntarily escapes me. What is Alpha Robert doing here? I jam on the brakes, abruptly halting the car, prompting the valet to rush over as I swing open my door, leaving the engine running as I stride inside. The receptionist visibly startles at the growl that rips from my throat, the sound reverberating through the marble floors, causing the windows to tremble. Where is he? I snap at the receptionist. Conference room 1, Alpha, with your father and Beta, she replies promptly. I nod, wasting no time, and head for the stairs instead of waiting for the elevator. Taking the stairs on the left, I ascend rapidly to the first floor. This section of the first floor is predominantly occupied by office buildings, strictly off-limits to patrons. The other half houses the sectioned-off restaurants and bar areas. Upon reaching the door, I swipe my card to grant access and hear the locks click before the door swings inward. Passing by a few open doors, I notice pack members peering out at me nervously. It's no secret that Alpha Robert and I have a strained relationship. Our constant presence in the media, coupled with a string of recent public incidents, has left the entire city on edge, fearing the outbreak of war. Frankly, it seems inevitable. Alpha Robert has been pushing boundaries, with several smaller pack businesses recently shut down, burned out, or even robbed. His desire for a portion of my pack's border knows no bounds, and he's willing to employ any means necessary, regardless of the harm inflicted on others. Despite the main streets and the areas behind them being designated neutral territories, Alpha Robert continues to drive out residents and business owners, refusing to respect their rights. Unfortunately, without concrete evidence and a reluctance from anyone to intervene, Alpha Robert had instilled fear, leaving those affected powerless. He operated as a cunning manipulator, never getting his own hands dirty, with whispers circulating that he may have been receiving assistance from influential figures in the human cities. This was a precarious time for conflict within our city, especially considering the recent spate of disappearances. Many she-wolves and even a few forsaken wolves had vanished without a trace. The looming threat of Hunter's return had already unsettled the entire city. The last thing we needed was internal strife, as it would only serve to weaken us and make us vulnerable to attacks from the human communities within the city. It's widely known that werewolves exist, yet there are still human extremists who advocate for the eradication of our kind. Despite centuries of peaceful coexistence between our cities, occasional clashes between werewolves and humans do occur. As I forcefully push open the conference room door, it bangs against the wall with a resounding thud. Martin stands against the wall, his arms folded, wearing a clearly displeased expression. Both my father and Alpha Robert halt their discussion, turning their attention towards me. However, my focus shifts to another individual in the room. She appears unimpressed by her surroundings, unmistakably Alpha Robert's daughter, as indicated by her scent. I've heard of her before and glimpsed her in the papers. Alpha Robert has been grappling with her rebellious nature. She has a reputation for stirring up trouble. I've even come across inappropriate photos and videos of her, intoxicated and being escorted out of various establishments by her father. "Ah, son, just in time," my father greets, rising from his seat and gesturing for me to join them. Despite his invitation, I remain standing. Whatever was unfolding here didn't sit right with me. My father harbored a deeper animosity towards Alpha Robert than I did. However, the origins of their feud remained a mystery to me. Thus, seeing them engaged in what appeared to be an amicable discussion left me incredulous. "What the hell are you doing on my territory?" I demand, glaring at Robert. Unfazed, he reclines in his chair, crossing his arms with a smirk playing on his lips. "We have a proposition for you," my father announces, attempting to initiate the discussion. "Which I don't agree to," interjects Robert's daughter, her defiance clear in her tone. "Amanda, you will do as you're told. Sit there and shut up." Robert snaps at her, his authority palpable in the air. It strikes me as odd that she doesn't resist. She's certainly old enough to assume leadership of her father's pack. Could it be related to the media scrutiny they faced? "Son, please, just take a seat," my father urges, his tone imploring. With a low growl, I reluctantly comply, pulling out a chair and settling into it. Now, Robert and I have been in discussions over the last couple of weeks, endeavoring to bring an end to this feud. We believe we've devised a solution that will benefit us all. Tensions are running high in the city, and it's imperative that we demonstrate unity to its residents. However, that unity will remain elusive if conflict is allowed to escalate unchecked. Amanda here is slated to assume leadership of her father's pack. Yet, recent media issues have left her pack apprehensive. "This is bullcrap," Amanda mutters under her breath, shaking her head in disbelief. Despite her defiance, I can't help but smirk, while Alpha Robert shoots her a stern glare before continuing. "My pack is uneasy about my daughter taking over," Robert acknowledges, addressing the concerns within his pack. "I wouldn't have to take over if you didn't." Amanda attempts to interject, her gaze burning with pure resentment towards her father. "Amanda, enough. Sit down and shut up. You've caused our family enough disgrace," Alpha Robert snaps at his daughter. Despite her defiance, I can't help but admire her resolve. Instead of yielding, she rises from her seat, planting her hands on the table and fixing her father with a menacing glare. "I wasn't even supposed to be in the city. I wasn't meant to be Alpha. I should have been across the country and university by now, but you just had to get rid of." Amanda's words are cut short as Alpha Robert abruptly stands up and slaps her across the face. Shocked, I spring to my feet, a growl escaping me at the sight of him striking his own daughter. It sickens me that he could raise his hand against his own flesh and blood. Despite any wayward behavior she may have exhibited, such violence is unjustifiable. "Sit down. You know not to mention that name," Robert warns Amanda, his tone laden with threat. I can't help but wonder who he's referring to. Alpha Robert has always kept his family within pack territory, rarely allowing his daughter to venture out unescorted. Yet, now that she's come of age, he can't exert the same level of control over her. The fact that Alpha Robert's wife is seldom seen only underscores his controlling nature. But if Amanda wasn't meant to be Alpha, then who was? Amanda rubs her cheek, tears shimmering in her eyes, but she complies and takes her seat again. Martin's jaw tightens visibly, and my father nods in Alpha Robert's direction, a gesture that infuriates me. How could he endorse such behavior, condoning the man's assault on his own daughter? As I was saying, Amanda is meant to assume leadership of the pack. However, her recent behavior has unsettled my pack members, Alpha Robert explains, his tone somber. Your father and I have devised a plan to not only resolve our feud but also benefit both packs. I don't follow, I interject, trying to comprehend his intentions. My father's sudden unease is palpable, evident in the way he loosens his tie, a habit he only resorts to when feeling uneasy. You need a mate to ensure the succession of your line. I need someone capable of assisting in the leadership of the pack. Clearly, my daughter is struggling and has proven to be troublesome. I require someone who can manage her and keep her in line, Alpha Robert elaborates, laying out his proposition. What? Like you just did by beating her? And what the hell do you get out of this? I demand, turning first to Alpha Robert and then to my father. None of this adds up. They've been adversaries for as long as I can remember. Why would my father suddenly align himself with him? Brian, my father scolds, but I refuse to back down. I won't ignore what just happened, and none of this makes any sense to me. Sure, I've been an asshole, and so has my father, but he's never raised a hand to me, let alone to a child or a woman. The imprint of Alpha Robert's hand lingers on Amanda's cheek, a crimson mark amidst her pallor. Disgust churns in my stomach. Striking someone you expect to take over your pack is reprehensible. It's no secret that Alpha Robert needs to step down. He's the oldest alpha in the city, and his antiquated methods of handling situations are no longer acceptable. Ignoring my father's attempt to intervene, I focus on Alpha Robert. I fail to see how your daughter is meant to address that issue, I assert, skeptical of his proposed solution. It's an arrangement. We believe you should take Amanda as your mate. She can produce a strong heir for you, and I can assure my pack that they'll be in capable hands. Furthermore, it would quell the negative media attention, presenting a united front to the city. My father elaborates, laying out the proposal. I'm sure you're not oblivious to the recent disappearances within our kind. We can't afford to be divided, especially with the looming possibility of conflict with the humans, Robert adds, his astonishment evident at what he's just proposed. I shake my head in disbelief. It's no wonder Amanda is so furious. I'm appalled that my father would even entertain such an idea. Just consider it, Brian. This is beneficial for everyone in the city and for both of our packs. It would put an end to the conflicts between packs, which benefits us all. My father persists, attempting to sway me. No, enough. Get the hell out of my hotel. I won't entertain any more of this nonsense, I declare firmly, rising from my seat. Brian, just give it some thought. We still have time for you to decide. There's no need to rush into anything. Nothing will be finalized until the Alpha meeting in 2 months. We can discuss it further in the meantime, my father urges, trying to placate me. However, I'm resolute in my refusal. We don't need to discuss anything. Amanda isn't my mate. I will have children with my chosen mate and no one else. Thank you for the offer, Alpha Robert, but I am not interested, I assert firmly, preparing to leave the room. I'll give you some time to reconsider, Alpha Brian. The offer still stands, so think carefully. Reputation is everything, Alpha Robert remarks, his gaze shifting to my father, who offers a nod of agreement. Yet, I couldn't care less about my reputation. I'm content with who I am. Before I can respond, however, my father interrupts. How's the planning for the Alpha meeting progressing? Have you settled on a location yet? He interjects, diverting the conversation and cutting me off just as I was about to tell Alpha Robert to leave my territory and never return. How dare you? I roar at my father, the anger boiling within me. You put me on the spot without even consulting me first. Making deals with someone like him? I won't stand for it. And if you try this again, I'll banish you from the city. My father takes a cautious step back, clearly taken aback by my outburst. He's always tried to exert control over every aspect of my life since I took over, but this crosses a line. This decision isn't his to make. I've found my mate, and I won't discard her for the sake of some petty rivalry. The fact that Alpha Robert's daughter isn't deemed fit to lead her pack isn't my concern. However, this situation complicates matters, as now I'll need to convince Jane to allow me to mark her before the Alpha meeting. With unwavering resolve, I reaffirm my commitment to accept no one but my true mate. Yet, I'm keenly aware that disagreeing with Alpha Robert's proposal is likely just the beginning of my troubles. The looming presence of the Shadow Pack only adds to the complexity of the situation. Moreover, I can't shake the feeling that my father is hiding something from me. His behavior is inexplicable otherwise. Until I uncover the truth, I must ensure he remains unaware of Jane's existence. It's imperative to safeguard her until I can ascertain what my father is concealing.